Roxanne here from FinanceRocks.com. Today I'm going to do a Transfer Tuesday video. And if you've never heard of this, it is a weekly on Tuesday video that a lot of content creators do showing where money came in and out of their accounts, what money they transferred to savings, and then it's also an opportunity to kind of go over goals, tracking your progress on savings goals or paying off debt goals. I tried to find out who started doing these videos, this style video, and I wasn't able to find anything, so I just learned about it from my friend Tasha at Mind Your Money. She has a great channel too. If you guys have never watched, you should check her out for sure. And I wanted to do this because I like the idea of it because it is more cash focused than budget focused, and I've always done mostly cash management for our finances. I also wanted to do it just to keep better track of our checking account, because when we do our weekly money management meetings on Sundays, my husband and I, sometimes we'll look at our checking account balance and be like, oh, we need to transfer money out of there into our savings account. And I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. Let's not spend this time. I'll go ahead and do it later. And then I don't always get around back to it. And I don't feel like it's a good use of our Sunday time to go in and transfer money at that moment. Just because I try to keep them short, we try to go over the things that are important that we both need to be there for. And transferring the money, I should be able to just go in and do myself. I actually had to, last month or the month before, transfer about $16,000 out of our checking account. So that's way too much to have in checking unnecessarily. Please don't take my finance card away. So I want to keep better track of our checking account and making sure that we are moving money and either investing it or putting it into the proper savings accounts, whatever we're going to do with it, in a more timely fashion. For the Transfer Tuesday part of the video, before I talk about savings goals, this morning I went in and transferred $1,900 from checking to savings. And so that reduced our balance down to about $6,000, which covers the current month of expenses and then credit card payoff. So like I said, keeping a closer eye on that checking account is one of the goals of the Transfer Tuesday. Just a few notes on cash management versus budgeting. I've always done way more cash management than budgeting. I think that it is an easier way to go about it, but definitely more extreme. So just to explain the kind of system that I used when I was paying off debt and saving my emergency funds was I would look at my checking account and I'd say, here's the balance, here's how much money I need for upcoming expenses and my emergency fund savings, and then here's the actual amount of money that I can spend. If that number was negative, I would just stop spending. And it makes sense, right? Like if I don't have enough money, just don't spend money. And I know that that's extreme. Not everybody wants to do that. And there are certainly negative consequences to that, like binge spending. If I went too long without spending money on things, then I would tend to, like, when I would finally go shopping, just like spend a bunch. So definitely have to be careful. There's a balance there of when is it okay to spend money or not. But I just found it was a really easy way. Now, just a quick disclaimer, this has gotten very complicated for our personal finances, but when I first started tracking our cash, it was very short and to the point and easy. So I would do, okay, there's $200 in my account. I need to have $950 in my account, so I'm still trying to save $750, essentially saying, okay, I'm not spending money now. And then once my amounts got above the $950, I decided to add goals onto there. So then deciding, oh, okay, if there's excess cash, what else do I want to work towards? So that's like, there's a component that's like, okay, a negative check where if I'm below like what I need to have for emergency funds, then I stop spending. If I have more than what I need, then I add goals. Speaking of goals, our top goal right now is to save $70,000 for a down payment on our next property, our next primary residence, or potentially a rental property. So that's the top goal that I have now. Let me go ahead and I'll walk you through how much cash we have and how much of that is set aside for whatever particular things we're saving for, and then kind of discuss what we will actually do. So it's how much we have minus our needs, minus our wants and goals, and then I do a separate just split up of actual allocation with, which is like considering those goals, what are we actually going to do with this amount of money that we have? I keep looking down because I have my bullet journal here where I've been tracking our cash balances throughout the year. Each month I go in and do this, and then I look to see how much money we have to apply to our goals. First of all, how much cash do we have is the first row. So I use accounting cash definition. So from an accounting perspective, cash is checking, savings, CDs, money that's very liquid. And so it includes paper money, but it's also like our accounts. So don't look at the balance and think I have that much of cash in our house, because we do not. One note, I added a little sticker on here because I recently added bonds as part of our savings strategy, and I've never had an investment as like had part of our emergency fund invested before, so I've had to adjust the top total to account for if we have money sitting in bonds. So for November, our cash total $80,787, and then we do use credit cards and we pay them off in full at the end of each month, so we never pay credit card interest, so less credit cards of $3,000. So we have about $70,000 of cash available, not available to spend, but available. So less needs. Emergency funds, $21,500. So that is, I did a full calculation on our average spending per month, and then I looked at, what scenarios are we likely to need money for. So right now my youngest brother is living in Finland, so that's pretty expensive flight. So if we needed to go there in an emergency, I calculated how much that would cost, factored all that in. So that's how I came up with the $21,500. The other need that we have, our short-term needs, would be 1 month ahead on bills, so $2,000. Adding all those up, our negative check column is $54,215. So if that number was negative, that's where I would go into that emergency, like no spend mode, like just not spend money. Because that says if I don't have enough money to cover our expenses, then we'll stop spending money. So we're positive, so that means we get to move on to the next section, which is the wants and goals section. So home down payment, like I said, we're trying to save $70,000 right now. I have a Europe vacation, $10,000. This got pushed back because of the pandemic. So it's just kind of been sitting there on our goals. I initially had a Canada road trip planned. For that, I just wiped it out for now. We ended up going to Oregon earlier in the year instead, so 0 for that. Sinking funds, $1,300 is how much we want to have for that set aside. Semi-annual property taxes, $1,300 each, so I just basically always have that on here to make sure that we're always ready to go to pay that. And then for IRA contributions, this changed this month. We made the contribution for Mr. Finance Rocks, and then I need to figure out how to do a spousal IRA contribution. I need to figure out if I can just make it into my regular IRA account or if it has to be a separate account, if I have to do anything differently when I'm contributing it to designate it as a spousal, since I don't technically have earned income this year. So yeah. Okay, and then the next row is cash available to spend. So once we take the $54,000 and subtract off those goals, that means cash available to spend negative $33,085. So this is helpful just from a psychological standpoint of saying, how much money do I have available to spend? Negative money. That helps me remember, oh yeah, I'm trying to save money right now for these particular things. And it just makes it a little easier not to spend so much money, knowing that, like, seeing that number and knowing, okay, I don't just have money to go and spend frivolously. We're working towards, all of these, 4 different goals. Okay, so the bottom section of my cash management is the actual allocation. So this answers the question, what are we actually going to do with the money that we have right now? So, you know, that last section was just outlining the goals of how much money we want to have. So for our actual allocation, $3,072 will go for paying off the credit card, subtract off our emergency funds and 1 month ahead on bills. For Europe and Canada trips, I just went ahead and zeroed those out since, like I said, saving for the down payment is our top goal. And then sinking funds and the IRA, I ran out of rows, so I lumped them together on my on my paper spreadsheet. In my journal. So sinking funds and IRAs, $7,300. And that left $46,915 that we could dedicate towards a down payment for a house right now. So I just take whatever's left over and put that towards the top goal. So cash available to spend, $0. And so once again, that just helps me mentally to, you know, think about my money as, you know, what we're working towards, and not so much just of looking at our bank account balance and say, oh, we have $80,000 to spend, you know? So kind of getting used to subtracting out amounts. So it's similar to balancing a budget, where I take the amount of cash that we have and give every dollar a purpose, say this is what we're going to do with it, and then we balance it to zero at the bottom. Again, it's important psychologically to say, okay, I have this money, but it's not just money I can just willy-nilly spend. So if you're watching this and you were like, that is way too much money to have in cash, when especially, you know, I've shared on the channel that we spend about $30,000 to $40,000 per year. So people looking at that and saying, oh, you have $80,000 in, you know, liquid money that's not invested, that's too much. It's a fair point. When you have excess money, it's important to kind of be efficient with it and make sure that you are investing as much of it as you can. The reason we have so much is, like I said, we have these savings goals, but even like the $21,000 emergency fund that we have, security is the most important thing to me personally. I value security more than growth of our investments. I value security more than financial freedom and, like, you know, hitting fine. So it's worth it to me to have the money in cash, accounting cash, knowing that I can access it, knowing that we are a long way out from when we would need money. All those things are very important to me, and so that's how I've come to this decision. And it's not that I would necessarily recommend everybody have this much cash, but I just wanted to say that. And then as far as paying off debt goes, there was a time when I would look at our cash balance and it would be cash minus like bare minimum emergency funds, which at the time was like $10,000, so much lower. And then any extra cash I would just automatically transfer to help pay off the cars and student loans that we had. I hope this video was helpful. I really like learning about how other people like manage money and think about money, and so I hope that this encourages you to look at your cash maybe in a slightly different way. And like I said, it wasn't always like this. I started the system when I literally had $200 in my checking account, and then grew it a little bit at a time over the years, starting with like what's the bare minimum you need, and then scaling it up a little bit at a time, disassociating the amount that you have in cash and savings from how much money is okay to spend. I feel like that was very important for me. So, you know, a lot of people, if this was their finances, they'd look at their checking account and be like, oh, okay, I have $80,000 that I could spend. But that's not at all how I think about my, you know, cash amounts and then how much money I have to spend. So trying to disassociate those two things, if that makes sense. Okay, I keep just rambling, so hopefully this was helpful. Let me know in the comments what you thought, and if you would like to see this again, if you have questions, since I know I did a few different things there. And I will go ahead and let you guys go. I hope you have a good week. And until next time, I hope your finances rock. Bye.